Hello, everyone, and welcome to MedEnt Minutes, our new podcast that explores EHR optimization and how practices can excel in value-based care. I'm Megan Chapman. I am the Director of Marketing here at MedEnt, and today we're talking with Dr. Kevin Bartolomucci about digital image and how it's helped his family practice defy the odds. Dr. Bartolomucci, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We also have with us today MedEnt sales consultant Ed Regis and PracticeBeat's founder and CEO Rick Cancelier and customer success manager Patrick Briner. So thank you all for joining me today. This is a very exciting episode. It's episode 1. So this is exciting to kick off our podcast. And Dr. Bartolomucci, you've had a pretty remarkable journey actually starting your own family medical practice and essentially competing against some multi-billion-dollar health systems. And I just wanted to ask if you could start out by telling everyone a little bit about yourself and basically how that journey started.
Sure. Yeah. So, I'm located in Western Pennsylvania in a suburb outside of Pittsburgh, and I was an employed physician for roughly 10 years. And then come July 2020, we were in the heart of the COVID pandemic, and me and my wife, who is a physician assistant in my practice with me, she was also employed by the same health system. We got involved in this stage of life during the pandemic where all of a sudden our outpatient work life wasn't anywhere near what it was. The healthcare industry certainly wasn't immune to shutdowns like the rest of the industries in our country. And all of a sudden we started getting home a little bit earlier and having a little more free time with our son. And we started to just reflect on what we wanted the next 10, 15, 20 years of our work life to look like. And I had always had in the back of my mind that I wanted to open up my own practice. And I feel like that wish and goal was almost beaten out of you through medical school, residency, and early interactions with healthcare systems. And they almost make you feel like it's not a realistic option in this day and age of corporate medicine. However, during the pandemic, I felt like I was, finally able to find the courage to start looking into what it actually looked like, what it would actually involve for me to get a practice up and running, and for both my wife and I to simultaneously quit our jobs and be able to start something on our own where, we were most importantly in control of our time. And I think that, that was our biggest motivation. Like we had a new son born in 2017. So, he was about 3 years old when all this went down. And, as we looked at the next 15 years of his life, did we really want to be in a position where we had absolutely no control over our time? And I think one of the biggest things that almost pushed me in that direction was going to work on Christmas Day for his second Christmas. Like it ate away at me to have to do that. And fortunately, in my early journey to starting our practice, I was, pointed in the direction of a couple different services that really, I think, helped make the transition seamless for me to get everything off the ground and running.
Yeah, I mean, wow, what a time to start something. You've got a young son, and I mean that it seemed like it was obviously the right thing to do, but it had to be pretty daunting at the time for you and your wife to, say we're going to go our own way. Did you even know where to start with, like, getting the word out about your new practice?
So, I'd say step one for me to be able to start this process was first being able to terminate my contract with my current employer. And, then from there, trying to pick a location for our practice that really made sense for what we were looking for, and that again was control of time. So fortunately, we were able to open up at a location just a few minutes down the road from our house. And when it came to marketing our new practice, I was pointed in the direction of PracticeBeat to help get an online presence. And to be perfectly honest, I have never done any marketing outside of my website and the online presence that I have. I've never opened up or never paid for an advertisement anywhere. So, getting started early with PracticeBeat, I think really helped my prior patients that I had as an employed physician find me, and certainly helped new patients find us as well. So, when I left my old employer, I was not really allowed to verbalize where I was going. I was just allowed to more or less say, "Hey, I'm leaving and I'll be in the area. So search for me if you want to search for me." And when I first met with Rick at PracticeBeat, I remember him giving me the advice that we should really start to get things rolling and try to have the website up and running by 6 months before I opened in July of 2021. And I remember at the time not really adhering to that advice, mainly because of just the financial implications of me trying to buy a new building, renovate that building, get everything up and running. So I ultimately dragged my feet on that a little bit, and we got our website implemented about 3 months prior to our office opening. And even with that, it really helped me be as busy as I wanted to be right off the bat. I remember having really probably like hundreds of appointment requests rolling in through our website before we opened our doors. And since we didn't have employees yet, me and my wife would be calling people back and scheduling them for when we opened up in July.
Wow. So, can you elaborate a little bit on some of the specific, features or strategies that you think made the most impact with PracticeBeat? I mean, there's so much to this digital image that I think a lot of people just don't realize or really think about. It's so much more than just a website, and it's especially more than just a pretty website. And was it kind of a shock to you when you met with PracticeBeat to learn all of the moving parts in something like this?
So my first meetings with Rick, I remember him going through his spiel, and all of this was foreign to me. I have no background in anything search engine optimization. I have never taken a business class in my entire life, never done a marketing class in my entire life. So, a lot of the verbiage that was used at the time really didn't mean much to me, other than to be like, wow, I didn't know this stuff even existed. And I can tell you, after we got the website up and rolling, every single comment that he made, every promise that he made, certainly was reality. They are able to do everything that they promise. So I'm in a region here in Western Pennsylvania where I'm surrounded by UPMC, which is a multi-billion-dollar health organization. There's what's called Allegheny Health Network, which again is another billion-dollar health industry. And then my former employer, which is on a smaller scale, but still, hundreds of $1 million organization. So I'm surrounded in this region. There's really no significant amount of independent physicians where I'm at. I mean, I think in the like three city area where I'm at, I can think of at the time I opened, I think there were 4 other independent primary care providers. Now I can think of 3 as another one sold to the health system after I started. But so I'm in this region where how do you compete against these people that actually have marketing departments? They have IT departments, they have their website developers. And I think it was just hugely important for me to be able to be seen on Google. When someone was searching my name directly or just searching for a primary care provider, I think within a matter of 3 to 4 months after we got the website rolling, I was certainly on page 1 of Google and quickly became like really the #1 search hit when you start searching things like primary care doctor near me or family doctor near me.
And I mean, that's pretty incredible because, so many organizations, you see these ads pop up or you go to that search result list and you'll see, sponsored. And right away you're like, oh, this person must have paid Google to
Right.
up my ad, or something. And it almost kind of, it feels a little cringy when you see that word sponsored there.
Well,
And
I never
you
even
don't
knew
have
that.
that.
Yeah, I never even knew that should feel cringy before I met with them. And, and now that I'm in tune to that, it does make me skeptical whenever I see that.
Right, right. Because it's like, did they really earn this spot or are they just, dishing out the dough? And
Sure.
so it seems like PracticeBeat has really helped you guys compete against these, huge systems in your area. And you're showing up organically, which is a really exciting part of the story, I think, that people
Right.
might not realize. So I actually wanted to ask Rick, who's on the call, like just there's so much that goes into this that folks don't really think about. And I myself, I mean, hey, I work in marketing, and I was even stunned by the knowledge I learned, when we met and you were explaining how Google's algorithms and search works, and it was really eye opening for me too. And I'm someone that works in the industry, so I just was wondering if you could go into some of, what are folks getting when they're meeting with PracticeBeat? What is the, I think we've seen Dr. Bartolomucci's story, but I'd like to hear from you on that as well.
Sure. Thanks, Megan, for hosting us, and I'd be happy to dive into kind of the first thing that people get when they meet with us, because working with Google is really hard, right? If you just try to give Google a call and ask them a question. When we first meet with a practice, we have a nurse informaticist on the call with us that pulls their market data, right? So we pull data on their market size and their market share and their patient leakage. And we give that data to them for free before we ever meet with them. And the idea is that we want them to see the opportunity in how competing practices are performing in the region, right? And so that research summary and that overview of how the market looks in terms of search in their highest performing areas is really valuable to them, and it's a gift. So we start out our relationship as a gift, right? Because we help independent practices outperform health systems on Google, right? That's our business. And what if I told you that there's this giant wall preventing hundreds or thousands of patients from finding you every month, right? And that wall was built to route patients away from you. And Google was the wall, right? You watch them destroy the yellow pages, right? You watch them come in and create tools where they check your credibility as a business, your performance on Google Chrome. They assess your authority and your specialty with the content on your website, right? And then they built this floodgate to direct people to you or away from you, right? And Google wants to give a patient an amazing experience, and they do that out of goodness, not out of a place of evilness, right? They want credibility, they want performance, they want authority. And that's what we give independent practices, right? An independent practice that wants to give Google that credibility and performance and authority, they don't know how to do that, right? And all they know is that they want to provide the care and the love and the support to patients that they bring to the table. And we want to make sure that they're seen, that they're visible, and that they're credible, that they perform, and they have the authority they deserve, right? Especially when they don't have the marketing budgets or the IT staffs of the multi-billion-dollar health systems that are trying to outperform them and outrank them, right? And so we really level the playing field and do a lot more than that, where they outperform them.
Great. Yeah. I mean, it astounds me just knowing how much is involved behind the scenes. It's very hard to wrap your head around when you don't speak the language, the tech language. And so I found it really fascinating by there's hundreds of things that PracticeBeat does behind the scenes to ensure that you are outranking that competition month after month, getting that diagnosis initially of, how are you performing now? And then doing those quarterly reviews to see, are you still behind? Are you still are you now outperforming others? And where can we continue to improve? And I just think, it's such a great partnership, I think, for practices in this day and age. I mean, it's not just something that's nice to have. I think it's pretty clear that it's becoming essential, not just to have a pretty website, but it has to be functional. There's just so many moving parts to it. And actually, Rick, I'm going to switch back over to Dr. Bartolomucci here, because I wanted to know, you actually started your practice with Medent as well, so you've kind of been working with us and with Rick for the same amount of time. And I know part of what PracticeBeat did was having the integration, Medent's EHR integrate with your website. How did that help streamline operations since you guys launched?
Yeah, I think initially speaking, the ability for people to submit an online appointment request was tremendously helpful for me. I had my website operational before my phone lines were even operational in the office. So, we didn't have any staffing in an office until the day we opened up. So, having the online appointment capability was a great piece for me and my wife to be able to communicate with patients, while still working in our other job. At one point early on, we actually had the integration of patients being able to directly schedule their appointments online through our website. We honestly ended up shutting that feature off, and I think that was a very effective feature. However, it took some control out of my receptionist's hands, who were a small office, and I just more or less appeased her because she liked everything to run through her, which it just worked out better in our environment for it to work that way. But I could see how other practices could greatly benefit from that direct online appointment scheduling. We have our patient communication portal directly integrated through our website. So, patients are able to email questions, refill requests. We can communicate lab results back and forth. So that piece works out wonderfully for us. I think that just even looking at, anything that I think anything that drives people to our website is a good thing too, in terms of, are we offering new services? Like just thinking of a couple services that have been added since we opened our doors. Like we added a dietitian to our office. So very often, patients may bring up, oh, I was on your website and I saw that you now have a dietitian. Is that something I could, sit down and speak with her? Or, oh, I see that you guys are now doing aesthetic services. What would that look like for me? How could we schedule a time to do something like that? So I think those are probably the key pieces that we found success with.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, so PracticeBeat was, I think, almost too successful, right, in getting you guys up there, because you're no longer taking new patients. Is that right? I mean, you guys are at capacity and have been for some time.
Yeah, and I'd say at capacity for what we want to be. We again with our main goal going into this, it was having that balance of time at home with family, and we kind of more or less started to close our doors to new patients probably within a year and a half of opening.
That's amazing.
We went from, more or less 0 patients on our panel. And I think now we're a little over 3,000 patients on our panel.
Wow. That's amazing. I mean, and especially with who you're competing against too in your area.
Right.
Those numbers are amazing. So,
Right.
so now it's kind of, it's not just attracting new patients, but it's retaining them. I mean, and it seems
Sure.
like you guys are doing just that.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And I was going to
okay.
ask, I mean, you've got to also think about the side of patient feedback too, right? I think your Google reviews, you have, a lot more reviews on Google, and not only do you have more, but you have almost a 5-star rating. It's like
Sure.
4.98 or something, and I mean, how important is something like that to you guys?
Well, I'd say it's important to me because Rick and Patrick tell me it needs to be important to me from maintaining Google presence. I know, like initially, Patrick, through my conversations with him, had given me some strategies to request feedback and, try to get people to scan a QR code to leave feedback on Google to help, really maintain that online presence. And I was terrible at it, to be honest. I seldom reached out, like seldom would proactively ask a person to really do it. We posted this stuff at our check-in and check-out desk, but I didn't ask people to do it. And then they were able to get it to a point where it seamlessly integrated with our schedule, so that patients automatically receive a feedback link to their cell phone anytime they have an appointment, and that really allowed those reviews to start growing at a more rapid clip.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering, I mean, so just from your perspective, um, based on your success, what advice would you give to new practices about leveraging technology? I mean, what did you learn throughout all of this?
I mean, I think it is hugely important the to have a partnership with search engine optimization. I mean, I think that you need to be visible. And any physician that has reached out to me over the past couple years since I implemented this, they would ask me if the money spent on PracticeBeat is worth it? And my answer is a resounding yes. When you look at what the expense is from a practice level, you're recouping that money with new patient growth instantaneously. And they're able to directly show you that. I mean, anytime I sit down with Patrick in our quarterly reviews, you can directly see where are your dollars going, and how are they and their team working for you. So I would strongly encourage anyone who is still trying to actively grow their practice or get off the ground. I would strongly encourage them to utilize these resources.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when, that first bit of information, Rick, you said is complementary, that initial diagnosis, here's your market share and here's what we recommend. There's really no risk in at least reaching out and getting that information, right?
Yeah, the value of understanding how big your market size is, what your market share is in that market, and what your patient leakage looks like on a monthly basis is incredibly eye-opening, right? When you get to see how many searches there are in high volume searches, and their minds are blown when they realize there's 6 figures of patients searching every month within their zip code for their specialty, and they don't show up in any of the searches, right? And it's funny because Google is in this business of doing trillions of decisions for billions of people in fractions of seconds, right? And just to understand how much market share there is sitting there for you to actually tap into, everybody else has access to that data in the market, right? The hospital systems do. They're tracking that information. They're tracking their market share. It would cost a lot of money just to have someone pull your market size, your market share data, and your patient leakage data and review it with you. And when someone meets with us, it's a gift, right? And we don't want anything in return for it. The goal is to give people data, help them understand the value of a shift in their market towards them. And if they want that shift, we're happy to help them. If they don't and they're not ready for it, we're happy to just provide the data on an annual basis. That's something we love to do.
Yeah, it was very eye-opening when I was introduced with you guys, recently, and this is definitely a partnership that we at Medit are very excited about and thrilled to have. We think you guys are an excellent resource, and so we're so glad that you guys could join this call today. And just, Dr. Bartolomucci, I bet when you were, in medical school, the last thing on your mind was digital image. Am I right?
Never even knew that term would exist.
Right. So, we realize that I don't think that is a specific area that doctors are really passionate about. But fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, it's, in today's digital age, it's really a requirement now for independent practices to think about. I think it's really become, like you said, essential. It's an essential part if you really want to be able to compete in this age.
And I think it's even so much more important from a specialist physician. For me in primary care, I don't need a health system, right? Once I kind of get my patients, if I do a good job, I'm going to have the ability to keep maintaining patients or even continue to grow them just through family and friend referrals. If I'm a specialist and all of my referral base is being pushed by the health systems telling their primary care doctors, you have to refer within our system. How do you grow? How do you collect that stuff as an independent specialist? I mean, you really, really need the ability to have that digital presence.
And it starts with the data. on how many patients are searching for that orthopedic surgeon, for that urologist, right? And knowing what the actual opportunity looks like before you start investing heavily into it. And it's funny too, because when we pull that data, 90% of the practices we meet with have over 90% inaccuracy scores with Google fact checkers, right? 80% of those practices who are paying for ads, they're losing 40% of their traffic to click leakage, right? And even 70% of the practices we meet with, they're not even HIPAA compliant. They're sending HIPAA information, PHI, PII, unsecurely through their website, through their email to their front desk, right? We find all kinds of information out during these conversations that really provide a lot of value to folks too, that help them kind of realize that, okay, you know, within the last 10 years, the front door of our practice really moved online, and we probably should, you know, make some considerations when it comes to that.
And Dr. Bartolomucci, I just wanted to double check with you. So you've been able to spend all the remaining Christmases with your son?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
absolutely do not work a holiday or a weekend or a night.
I love that. I love that.
And that's what it's all about, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think we're coming, to the end of the discussion here, but this is definitely an exciting journey and story that we wanted to share with folks. And I just wanted to kind of close out with, we kind of covered what advice, would you have, but looking forward, if somebody was, doubting the need for, a healthy online presence, what would you tell them?
I would just really try to seriously look at them and say, well, where do you think people are going to find out about you? You know, do you really think more people get their information from their church bulletin or or the newspaper than they do by going to Google? I mean, I can just speak for myself in a different industry line. If I'm trying to make a reservation for a restaurant, I'm going to Google and I'm trying to do it directly online. And if I have to pick up the phone and call, odds are I might look for a different restaurant. So I think it's just honest self-reflection as to where do you think it's going to come from. Everyone. I mean, you look around, everyone's on their phone, right? This is where you're going to capture people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm guessing, nothing was really added to your plate, right? PracticeBeat, the partnership has just been focused on you being able to still provide a high level of care.
Oh yeah, absolutely nothing is added to my plate. I mean, anytime if I want something to change on the website or if I want something to be added, I mean, I submit a little online request and usually within a 24-hour period, it's done and changed. I meet with Patrick every 3 months just to kind of review where we stand, and it's very seamless from my perspective.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for joining the call today. Thank you, Dr. B, for sharing your story, and thank you, Rick and Patrick, for joining us today as well. We really appreciate it, and we're very excited about this new partnership.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and everybody, have a great day.